Greetings, Universal Stars. Thank you for joining me for another Inspiring the Masses developmental and educational video with me, your host, Venus, a Goddess Scott. I am a transformational life coach and speaker, and all that I live, experience, and learn, and everything that I do, I am purpose to share with you and to help you and to encourage you to adopt some of these healthy principles that I have created to push you into your greatness as I am pushing myself into my greatness. So I'm not sure if you are familiar, but last week, I started Zoom meetings, and what that is that it is this phenomenal and amazing virtual meeting network program app that was created for, people like you, I, and others to share the content, share their knowledge, and to share with one another a lot of things in regards to information and, meetings between companies and personal meetings, one-on-one coaching and things of that nature. So last week, I did my first Zoom meeting, and it was on Straight A's to Success. Unfortunately, there were some who could not get into that meeting. So I decided to recreate another short presentation just to invite all the rest of you guys into this meeting, and also to get the Straight A's to Success that I created so that you would have it as a tool and resource for your personal development. So without further ado, let's get into it. Straight A's to Success is 1, acknowledge; 2, accountability; 3, assess; 4, acquire; 5, affirm; and 6 is to act. And so I am about to go into each one of those Straight A's to Success and to break down what that means in its entirety. Excuse me. So I'm not sure about you, but there was a time where I have gotten to a point in my life where I was just tired of being tired. I was exhausted, attempting so many different programs and listening to various people and trying out so many different things that wasn't effective with me. And so I started to do further research and just educate myself, as I always have done, educating myself, and just requesting that the universe yield to me the necessary people, the necessary tools, resources, educational material, so that I can move outside of ineffective ways and processes and programs and developmental and educational material, courses, even people that I've invested in that wasn't effective, and me growing and expanding my spiritual essence, my mental state, and my physical state. And so what I have adopted from all of the research and, of course, experience and, divine information and wisdom that I've gotten, I kind of put together this developmental and educational little informative system called Straight A's to Success. And this doesn't only this is not only in reference to wealth, being successful with your finances and obtaining wealth. This applies to your spiritual wealth, living in spiritual abundance. This applies to your mental wealth, health, living in mental abundance. And this also applies to your physical wealth, health, and living in your physical abundance. So Straight A's to Success applies to all foundational areas of who you are as the most infinite triune being that you are, soul, mind, and body. And so these steps, these concepts that I am using will help push you and help you to expand and evolve in all of these key areas. So number one in the straight A's to success, and I'm going to be looking at my notes, so forgive me if I take my eyes off of you. So number one to straight A's to success is acknowledge. This is the foundational area of, everything to be cognitive, to be aware, to be conscious of what's going on, not only in your head, but around you. So acknowledging your current assessment, acknowledging your now will bring clarity to your current behavior patterns, so you can figure out why it is you do the things that you do. We must first heal once we figure out why. Once we revisit what's in the subconscious, we must first heal in order to make progress in the steps moving forward in life. Otherwise, it is almost like moving on a hamster wheel. To the individual that is on the hamster wheel, it appears that you're moving and that when you increase your speed, you're going a lot further. But to the reality of it, to the outside perspective of it, is that you're moving really fast, but you're moving in the same spot. You're moving nowhere. And so as a transformational life coach, I help my clients and all who would, cross my path and seek my services. I help them to see that they are either on a hamster wheel or getting on the hamster wheel, or when they get off the hamster wheel, I show them, necessary developmental and educational skills and healthy practices to get them off that hamster wheel or to stop them from going on that hamster wheel. And so acknowledging where you are in your current state would help guide your future in a much clearer, more vivid and imaginable way. So acknowledging when we begin to neglect or suppress whatever it is that we don't like in our now. And I'm always very transparent in my approach and my coaching techniques to always share my story. I was at a place in my life where I didn't want to acknowledge anything that made me feel uncomfortable. For one, it was uncomfortable to my flesh. It wasn't so much uncomfortable to my mental, because at that time I was too busy, suppressing it and putting Band-Aids on it and just saying, that's, dust under the rug. I was too busy doing, operating and unhealthy practices that it really didn't affect my mental, but it was uncomfortable to my flesh. And the more I suppressed it, the worse it got. And I would convince myself that I wasn't getting worse, that things would seemingly just automatically get better without the process, undergoing the process of mental restoration and acknowledging where I was and my current state. And not only acknowledging, but to face those things so I can heal from those things, so I can move forward, and expanding all of those three key areas: spiritually, mentally, and physically. So knowing that neglecting and suppressing these things is not going to allow you to create effective practices and help push you towards effective actions, taking actions. So, and it also keeps us from acknowledging our cognizant dissonance. And not to demean anybody's intellect, but, for those who are not really familiar or haven't heard that term in a long time, for me, I know I completely forgot about it at one point. Cognizant dissonance is that the concept and the idea that we know that there are two voices. We have multi-dimensional minds, and so we are constantly warring. Our minds, our thoughts are constantly in friction, constantly warring against one another. And so cognizant dissonance is the ability to know that we have contradicting thoughts. And when we pay attention to the contradicting thoughts, we can then now kick out the thoughts that we don't need, the thoughts that no longer serve us, and continually affirm the thoughts that do serve us. Being aware of that is very effective, but just because we ignore it, just because we suppress it, just because we brush it under the rug doesn't mean that it's not there, because whatever is there is resonating, and whatever is resonating is being fueled and energized and breeding those energies that those thoughts are emitting, because everything is energy and thoughts are energy. So just by merely not thinking that it's there or not confronting it doesn't mean that it's going to disappear. We actually have to take action. So being aware of our cognizant dissonance is something that is going to help us tremendously in this process. Owning and accepting our truth. That's a big one. That is a big one. I don't know about you, but for me, that is a huge one. Because like I said, there was a period of time that I didn't want to accept my truth at the moment. I could not fathom the idea that me, Venus, charismatic, just happy-go-lucky, just love everybody and want to help everybody, and the one that seemingly got it all together and always had her face beat and hair nice and clothes just done. I was just it. You know what I'm saying? Or I just was wearing the masks that seemingly projected that I was it, and that nothing was going on internally, that was causing me to go into a deeper down spiral of depression. It was a time where I was in such a deep state of depression. It got really, really bad. It was a lot of things that contributed to my deep state of depression, and things just going completely chaotic and haywire in my life, extending from being a veteran, doing a 12-month tour in Afghanistan, being a young mother, and continually evolving into the mother that I want to be without the proper guidance, role models, education, resources, whatever it is, jumping in and out of unhealthy relationships, seeking love in the arms of men, and all the wrong different relationships and all the wrong places. I can go on and on and on about my transparency and my transition, because now I am healed from a lot of those things. I'm still working on some of those things, because we're never completely done at evolving in our transformations. You know what I'm saying? But there are some things that I speak about that, I can either joke about or laugh about, like how I thought I was just this gonna be a world-renowned stripper. I mean, who does that? But you couldn't tell me nothing back then. In my mind, I thought like, wow, I'm just going to be a world-renowned stripper. Like, who says that? I said that. But you couldn't tell me any different. Normally we hear, I'm going to be a world-renowned speaker, a world-renowned doctor, a world-renowned coach, or a world-renowned anything great. But at that time, in my ignorance, I was just foolish. I can laugh about it now, but there was a point in time where that mindset, that unhealthy mindset, it was just affecting me in the worst ways. And I would just ignore it. I would just ignore those thoughts, those unhealthy practices. And not knowingly, it was just breeding destruction internally. It was breeding internal destruction, and an internal destruction that I would have never, ever guessed that it would be protruded or exposed externally, but it was. And so, I encourage you, and you're acknowledging and you're being cognitive of those things that are prohibiting you from moving forward physically, spiritually, mentally. Tap into those things, face those things, because it is the only and sure way that you will heal. So, when Lisa Nichols, she is one of my virtual mentors. She don't even know it, but she is one of my virtual mentors that I follow, that I am inspired by, that encouraged me in a lot of different areas. She mentioned something that really set inside of me, that really resonated with me. She said, when you have nothing to hide, nothing to fear, and nothing to prove, and nothing to regret, then you are truly, this is my add-on, then you can truly truly live a transparent life. And when you live a transparent life, meaning you have nothing to hide, nothing to fear, nothing to prove, and nothing to regret, you can start living a life, an abundant life, a blissful life, a joyful life, because nothing is holding you back. Because who can tell you something in this world? Who can throw a stone at you when we all live in glass houses? No one. So when you start exposing these things that have kept you bound and held you down to an unhealthy state, when you let go of all of those things, then you're truly transforming your life. So acknowledgement is a reliable key in transformation. It truly is. And so, ask yourself this question. Are you acknowledging your now? Are you acknowledging your current state? Are you taking into consideration that there are things that are internal that you need to face, that is going to, allow you to step foot on this road, on your journey to holistic, spiritual, mental, and physical healing? Those are all questions that I had to ask myself at one point. And so moving along, the second straight A to success is accountability. This one has been and still is a process for me. I don't know about you, but it's still a process for me. Even though I have taken accountability for a lot of my actions moving forward, I realize that this is a constant everyday practice, being accountable for not only my thoughts, which leads to my actions, which leads to my results. I have to be accountable for that, because nobody else is going to do that for me. And me not being accountable is only going to work against me. No one else. And so no one else is ever responsible for the actions that you or I take. I am responsible for my actions. You are responsible for your actions. And ultimately, it is what creates our results. So any of our actions that led up to our now and that will lead up to our future, we are accountable for. There is always going to be a choice. Even if the choices that are given will not seemingly be uncomfortable to the flesh, but it is how do they say? It is mind over matter. It is mind over the physical actions of the choices that we make. If you continually feed yourself thoughts that are not positive, not high vibrational thoughts, they are going to inadvertently affect you in the worst ways possible. I guarantee you. So we will always have choices. The choices that you make will determine your level of integrity, your character, and where you will go in life. And how productive and prosperous you will be in all of those areas. Being cognitive, like I said, the knowing or perceiving of your cognizant dissonance, as I mentioned earlier. We won't go back into that. It is impossible to correct something that you are unaware of. That's just like going in a ring blind and they saying, and you just know you have to fight something. You have to fight someone, but you have not prepared yourself. You have not, embraced the necessary, you have not researched the necessary materials or educational information or, practice healthy developmental practices, and you're going into it blind. You know what I'm saying? That's just like getting into a car, putting on blindfolds, and it's like, okay, we need to get from point A to point B. And you have a choice. You can either blindfold yourself and get there, which most of us do when we're approaching life situations, or you can take off the blindfold by knowing the things that you need to know, educating yourself on the things you need education on, seeking the proper help that you may need from others that are experts or may have more experience in certain areas. We have a choice. You can either continually drive blind, or drive with clarity, with a clear view, a clear vision of where you're going. You understand? And it would eliminate those brick walls and those detours, because we would have a clear path of where we're going. So, acknowledging that and being accountable for making the choice, being accountable for choosing. We are responsible for that. So, the question is always posed, is thrown right back at us. Are you holding yourself accountable for your actions? Are you holding yourself accountable for the reality that you've created? No one else created your reality. Yes, people, places, and things influence our reality, but no one is responsible for the outcome of your reality besides you, beloved universal stars, besides me. And it took me years on top of years to know this, but now that I do, and now that I have been operating in this for several years, I am always open and transparent and sharing exactly what it is, exactly what it was, exactly what it will be with you. And so the third straight A to success is assess. And all that you have acknowledged and all that you have took accountability for, now is time to assess. Evaluate your present now. Once you have gained all of this insight and information, evaluate your present now. Once you have taken accountability for your actions and acknowledging your or our cognizant dissonance, we can now evaluate our thought pattern to see why we continually behave the way we do, so that we can change our behaviors, so that we can begin reprogramming our thoughts that influence and command our behaviors, so we can get better results. It's just as simple as that. It's a simple yes to you, yes to me, yes to this process. It's knowing that you really want to change your life and that you are just done with trying everything else besides what will work for you. And so evaluating your present now gives you the necessary information needed to navigate your next move, your next turn, your next whatever it is, your next steps that's going to get you and set you on the right path. The question is, are you ready to make the assessment? If you are not truly ready to invest in you, by investing in your time, your energy, by committing to yourself, committing to the process, taking affirmative action, not just speaking about things, not just saying things and expecting it to land right in your lap, not just doing all of those things, but then you are truly ready to transform your life once you are ready to take action. The fourth straight A to success is acquire. Actually, and this is a very profound meaning, simple but so profound. Acquire actually means to buy or obtain something for oneself. And all that you do in this process of moving forward, fulfilling your divine purpose, fulfilling your destiny, walking in your call, whatever it is, expanding your personal life, expanding your professional life, expanding your business life, expanding your spiritual, mental, and physical life in all aspects of it. Acquiring the necessary education, tools, resources, and even coaches in those specific areas is going to really make a huge impact in your transformation. It really is. So acquiring all of those things is going to allow you to lay down a very strong and dynamic foundation without any loopholes, without any penetrable spaces where others can bring on or add on or try to throw their personal ideologies, their personal perspectives, their negative comments and dogma and all of these things. Because no matter what somebody throw at your brick house, your foundation that you have laid, it would not penetrate it. Because you would have by this time adopted and gained the necessary mindset, the necessary self-esteem, the necessary tools, the necessary resources, the necessary educational and developmental requirements. All of these things you would have already gained so that nobody can say anything or do anything to deter you from your growth and what you already know to be yours, to be true in your eyes and your mind and your soul and your heart. So we need the expertise of others. I know one myth is that which I used to tell myself is that I don't need nobody, I don't need a coach. I don't need, mentoring. I don't need guidance. Oh, I got this. I can do it all myself. I'm independent. I can do this. I've been doing this. I raised myself and raised my children. I done accomplished so many great things. The worst thing I ever did to myself was convince myself that everything that I just said was true. Meanwhile, or however, some of those things were true. I did accomplish a lot of things in my life thus far. I did learn a lot of things on my road. I did acquire certain things. But the worst thing I told myself is that I couldn't afford to invest in, the necessary tools, the necessary resources, the educational resource, developmental skills, and even coaches. I told myself a lot that I didn't need the expertise and the experience that others perfected in. I told myself that I didn't need any of those things, and that was so ineffective, and it took me years to learn that I am not here on an island by myself. That I need the expertise, the experience, the knowledge, the gifts of others in order to push me further into my destiny and my call. Meanwhile, I know a lot of things, and, I am great at doing a lot of things, but I am not great at everything. I am not a master of all things. There are things that I need from others that is going to help me develop. And so when I finally realized that, when I finally got that through my thick, damn skull, I finally started to make progress. I finally started to see the benefits of stepping out of this negative mind frame, this ignorant mind frame that I've adopted throughout the years. For whatever reason, I adopted, no judgment, for whatever reason, you may have adopted some of the negative thoughts that have kept you in a very still and complacent and in a mediocre place, and so adopting, seeking the proper resources, seeking the necessary coaches, the ones that fit you, are tailor-made for you, the ones that you relate to, the coaches that are going to help you move into your greatness. I had to invest. And when I said I'm willing, ready, committed to invest, things start to change. But that's a whole nother story. I can tell you that it absolutely works. And so most say that they can't afford a coach. Just like I realized that I cannot afford to think that I don't need coaches in my life. And I encourage you to discard that notion, discard that myth that you don't need anyone, that you are not going to have to invest with your time, your energy, and your finances into your future, into your purpose. That's just what it is. That's really just what it is. I don't know how much more I can say about that, making an assessment and figuring out all the things that you need that's going to push you into your greatness, that is going to give you all the necessary tools, resources, materials, and experience and knowledge that you need to live the abundant life that you were created to live. Now, this is not for everybody, because there are individuals who are absolutely uncomfortable or, uncomfortable moving forward, or just content with where they are. That wasn't me. And I know that's not you. And that is not many of us. So, allow these helpful tips that I'm giving you to really resonate with you. And you begin the process to your healthy transformation. And so the fifth straight A to success is affirm. I am such a knower in this. I'm not a believer. I am a knower, and speaking positive affirmations will change and transform your life right before your eyes. And you will one day, not even years down the road, but I'm talking within days, look at yourself and be like, that works. Yes, because it does work. As sure as I was surprised, I know it is going to blow your mind once you be consistent with affirming the things that is already inside of you. that is already inside of you. Reaffirm those things, reattach to those things, reclaim those things by speaking affirmations out loud of all the things that is true to you, not of all the lies that we continually speak and continually set seeds within our mental and our souls that just are ineffective and that are a negative. Negative things grow too. Just as well as positive things grow, negative things grow well too. So, excuse me. Reevaluating the things that we tell ourselves, reprogramming our language, the things that we say is going to be a big part of this process. In my previous video in a Zoom meeting, I spoke of something called neurolinguistic programming. And in the study, and that is the, excuse me, the study of the brain's ability to control the comprehension and, acquisition of languages that we speak. And they have all different type of techniques that they use, virtual imagery, visual imagery, sounds, and anything holistic is always my approach and my go-to. Meditation practices, all of these healthy techniques that I just mentioned, statistically and scientifically, excuse me, have been proven to effectively work. Even healing mental disorders, mental distortion, mental illnesses, mental displacement, all of these things that, affect our mind's ability to transfer the necessary information to get us moving in the right direction. And so every successful person known today, whether they know it or not, adapts to these principles, and which are no secret. In the secret, if you've ever heard of it or are familiar with it, the laws of attraction is simple. All of the successful people that we hear about, that we see, that we know, that are just living the lives that they were meant to be. And this is not to even think about all the things that got them to that point, but knowing that they have used these principles, the divine laws of cosmic attraction. These people are no different than you and I. They may look different, they may sound different, but I guarantee you they are no different than you and I. The only thing that separates those individuals from each other, from you and I, or people who are not successful or not doing the things that they want to do in life is, how can I say that? Is their willingness, their determination, and their commitment to adopt the divine laws of cosmic attraction. And so speaking positive words of affirmation is a part of adopting the laws of attraction. What you put in the universe, you also get. It's the boomerang effect. So don't ever be so quick to throw something out there if you're not ready. If you're not ready to receive it, because whatever you put out there, it will eventually come back to you. It's not a matter of if, it's when it will return to you. And so that if you are operating, if you are transforming your life, if you are reprogramming using these healthy practices and word affirmation, the power of I am affirmations, then you are well on your way to transforming your life, just like we see others doing today. And so the question is, are you ready? Are you committed? Are you ready to say yes to you? Are you ready to say yes to your divine call? Are you ready to be committed to the process? Are you ready, family? I had to ask myself that question.